Hello everybody, welcome back to the shop. We're out here at the CNC again today and it is hot out here. I am sweating bullets. We're going to make this a quick one. I'm just going to run through Millmage real fast. We're going to go over tool operations, what you can run together and what you cannot. So let's dive right in and see what Millmage looks like. Alright, I've got a project pulled up here. We've already got I'm out here at the shop, so I haven't been out here in a little bit. We've already got an update for Millmage, but we're going to do that later. This is the Millmage version 9 RC4. So we'll get that one. I'll go ahead and download it, but we're not going to install it yet. I want to look at the actual toolpaths. This screen here is what I want to look at. You can see this is my catch-all tray that I've created in Millmage. I've got several pockets. I've got several tool paths here. So I've got a surfacing pass, and of course we'll do this one by itself. So once I get ready to carve this, I'll turn everything off except for the surfacing pass. And why is that here around? What's that been? The surfacing pass accidentally got assigned to my shade pocket. And that's not what we want. I want the surfacing pass assigned to this vector. So I'm going to take this shade pocket. I'm going to hit this little minus button up here. That's going to remove that surfacing path from the shade pocket. Now I'm going to select my outer vector around my entire material. You can see I've got a square drawn around the entire material piece here, the workpiece. And I'm going to, with the facing operation selected, I'm going to hit the plus sign, or I can also hit the assign, either one. And now when we go to view this operation, we can see we got a nice clean surfacing operation. When it starts out, it'll come down here, it'll curve in, and it'll just surface this whole piece of material. All right, that will be by itself. When I get ready to carve, this is a cable track. This is a little slot in the back of my material. This is a little slot that leads to the back of my material where a wire will lay into. These two is a recess for the glass insulator to rest in, to act as a globe for the light bulb. And this is a bore operation. So it's going to bore a 1-inch hole so I can set a socket in it. So all of these paths right here will be on using the same tool. So after I've got this surfaced, I will turn the surfacing bit off. I will turn the pocket, bore, and cable track. I'll turn all of those on. And then I'll preview the job again. I'll run it with these three. And the way that's going to work is the shade pocket will carve first. I start my depth at 0. So what I've done, I'm going to 0 my bit to the surface of the material. And I'm going to start with a start depth of 0. The final depth is going to be 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. Hit OK. The next thing it's going to do is create this bore out, this 1-inch bore out. I'm going to start my depth at 0. Final depth is going to be 1. And I'm going to step down 1/8 of an inch per rotation. The cable track, again, I'm starting with a start depth of 0. The final depth is going to be 1/4 of an inch, 0.25 inches. So you can see my depth per pass is set to 1/8 of an inch. So it's going to do that cable track in 2 passes. Now for these 3 operations, I have zeroed my bit to the top of the material. I'm going to run all 3 of these operations at the same time. I do not have to re-zero the bit because I'm not changing the bit. Everything's going to start from that same start point value. So let's start my carve. And I know that was super fast. So at 40 speed, we'll take this down to one speed, real time, and we'll play that. We'll play that out. And you can see I've got my ramp options enabled, so the bit's ramping into the wood. You never want to plunge with an end mill because there's no cutters on the bottom of the bit. If you try to plunge with an end mill, you're going to heat the bit up and you're going to cause it to dull a whole lot faster than it should. Plus, if you're plunging holes, you could start a fire. We can speed this up just a little bit. You see it's going to bore down into make that pocket, and it's going to ramp into my cable track. All three of those operations completed at the same time. So I could go straight to my control mode, and you see all three of those operations are going to happen at the same time with one Z, with setting the Z one time. Go back to edit mode. Now I don't want to turn all of these on because the machine does not know that I'm changing a bit here for this pocket, for this tray pocket. I'm changing out for a 1-inch bow bit. So I'm going to have to turn these three off and do this one pocket right here by itself because it's using a 1-inch bow bit. So if I hit preview, we can watch it. It's going to carve right down into our material. And you can see it's carved down into that material just fine. You can't see any of the other passes because they're not turned on. So I'll turn that off, and then I'll turn my profile on. This is our profile cut to cut this tray up. We'll turn that on, and you can see I've left myself some tabs on the bottom to hold it in place. Now if I turned all of them on, Millmage will try to run every single one of these straight in a row. It will not stop to let you change a bit, so you don't want to do that. But you'll see the entire project. And all of them turned on. We'll preview it. You want to turn them all on when you preview these operations. I've got my surfacing bit on. I didn't mean to leave that on. That one you don't want to turn on. But we want to start from the 0 point, not from a sub-0 point, from a surfacing bit. So we'll leave the facing operation off, and then we'll preview it. So as you can see, what I've done here, I've left every one of my toolpaths on to view my completed project. But you do not want to run your machine like that. Like I say, I've got these first three are using the beast bit, so all of those can be on at the same time. When those three get done, I'll turn them off. I'll turn my 1-inch bow bit on. And then I'll turn it off, and then I'll turn my last profile on. So that's how you want to use Millmage. Now, let's just say we're not done. Let's put another toolpath in here. Let's do a design. Let's put a name in here. Let's do a V-carve. Let's just put Jack in the shop. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. And I'm going to rotate that negative 90 degrees with the blame proper thing selected. I'm going to rotate that negative 90 degrees. There we go. I'm going to scooch these together a little bit. There we go. And we can scoot it up a little bit. And just say I'm going to run that. Not even, well, I will just scroll through the fonts real quick. Say we're going to do this one right here. I'll do that font. I'm not worried about lining it up and all this. I'm worried about putting a toolpath on this operation. So I'm going to click New Operation. We're going to do a V-carve operation. I'm going to select my bit. I am showing I'm showing 87.6 degrees and 77% humidity, 76 when I picked it up. And I ran that down just a little bit to squeeze these words together a little bit more so they fit more comfortably in this pocket. And with that selected, I picked up my V carving. I selected my tool. I came over to my V bits. I came down here to a 1/4 inch 60. And I just chose this one just for craps and giggles. The start depth, I went back and looked at my start depth on my, I looked at my final depth on my pocket. So you can see our 1-inch bowl bit here. You can open this up and see what our final depth was, or all you got to do is select it. Your final depth is right here. You don't even have to open that toolpath. All your information is right here. So now that we have that information, that's going to determine where we start at. Our start depth is 3/4 of an inch. Our depth per pass is 1/8 of an inch. And if I wanted to limit how deep it goes, I would turn this button on right here and limit the maximum depth. If this was some extremely large text and the bit and the edges of the bit would not reach both sides of this vector, I might want to turn this on and limit how far that goes. But in this case, it looked okay, so I'm not going to use that. With all of these selected, I'm going to do my preview. I can click it here, or I can click it here. We can watch this operation take place. And that was really fast, 5x speed, but you get the gist right there. Oops. That text looks okay to me, so that's saying that V bit, the edges of that V bit was touching the insides of my vector. So I did not have to limit the depth on that text. That looks pretty good. So when I go to carve this project, again, first thing I do is surface the material to get it as thick as I want. Then I can turn all similar toolpaths on. And you will be able to see all 3 toolpaths right there that I have turned on. Go back to edit mode, turn those 3 off, go to my 1-inch bowl bit, and you'll be able to see that toolpath. And then I will do my V carving. And you can see right there, see how deep that is right there? That's telling me that that bit's going to come straight over and then plunge into my pocket. It's not going to crash into my material. And then I'll turn that off and do my final cutout because that's another bit change. All right, when I'm doing my surfacing bit, of course you zero to the top of your material. When you change that bit, of course you've got to zero it again. And it's going to run these 3. I don't zero it again until I change the bits for this bow bit. Then I'll re-zero the bit to the top of the material. Then I'll re-zero the bit again when I change it for this V bit, because I'm changing the bit. And then on this last operation, I will re-zero again. And when I say re-zeroing, I'm only re-zeroing the Z. I do not have to re-zero the X or the Y. And that'll give you your operations there. So you don't have to do them one at a time, but you do have to group them with the same bits. If you do a bit change, you've got to do a separate operation. So I hope that makes sense. And like I said, I'm sweating bullets out here, so I'm going to go back in the house where the air conditioner and the lasers are. We're going to play with some lasers for a little while. So I hope you pick something up from Millmage here, and leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, do all the things. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you have anything you want to see, leave it in the comments below. And stay tuned for the next one. Y'all have a good one.